All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. Been doing some takes on Canelo versus Crawford. I wanted to find someone that's kind of leaning the other way, and I found Paulie hater Canelo Malignaggi. Actually, Paulie is one of my favorite commentators. I love watching fights when he's commentating because he's so in depth. I don't know. I think he's kind of a hater. I'm not sure. I'm going to let you watch this video. You let me know. I'll be chiming in and out. But let's see what Paulie has to say about Terence Crawford and Canelo Alvarez fight coming up. Let's do this.
Canelo Crawford. I know what you feel about Canelo, but what do you feel about that particular fight, which it sounds like it probably took 100 to 150 million, maybe each, in order for Turkey to get that fight.
It doesn't.
Can you imagine the paycheck? 100 million, 150 each? I gotta have to look at that. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of quiche.
Really, listen. It's gonna be a fight that people want to watch again. Because again, it's something that people generate and talk about. Canelo's very popular. At this point, he's if he fights my sneaker, it's gonna generate 1 million pay-per-views, right? So, I was originally thinking Crawford might be too small. I think Crawford is a way more complete fighter than Canelo ever was. And Crawford is just the only risk here is Crawford's small. Do you think
the only risk? It's a huge risk, Paulie. Let's get real.
Think about it though. Duran was a former lightweight, and he was able to beat Iran Barkley eventually, right? So it's not out of the question. And this Canelo is not the prime Canelo. This Canelo is also a Canelo who's trying to steal bags while half-assing it. When Canelo has been put in tough situations, in the moments where he's had to really dig down, what has he done? He hasn't really dug down and gone for broke in fights where he's been losing. He just kind of accepted the loss.
Like football.
We saw that when Floyd too. Early on with Floyd too. People will say that he was young, but he never really took a risk in the Floyd fight once he was outclassed. He just accepted it, like, all right, this guy's outclassing me. With B-ball, it's worse because B-ball now you're in your prime and you can't use the excuse that you weren't experienced. You physically saw and mentally saw this guy's better than me, and you made a conscious decision not to take a risk. I'm going to just go the distance and I'm going to be happy to do it. Made a conscious decision. That exposed a lot because ever since then, he lowered his level of opposition tremendously. Okay, so I look at that and I see, remember what I said about Crawford earlier in this interview. He is a guy who's reminds me of Floyd, and he stays hungry, motivated, and wants to still be the best, has that mean streak in the ring. Not to say that Canelo doesn't have a mean streak, but I feel like once you start punching Canelo a few times in the face, that mean streak ain't so mean anymore. You know what I mean? He punks out a little bit. So while Crawford, I feel like, wants to go for the gusto. That doesn't mean to me that Crawford wins because he's small, but I'm just saying I believe more now that Crawford can win than I did originally when this was first being talked about. And I would love to see Crawford win because I feel like if Canelo gets this payday, which is going to be a big payday, and then also gets the win out of it, it's just too much of a reward for outright ducking Benavidez and being allowed to duck his mandatory contender while holding all the belts hostages at 168 pounds for so long and not letting that weight class run its course the way it should.
You know, all right, to be fair, that's a different take. That's a different take on Canelo. He's basically saying that Canelo doesn't have the killer instinct and that whenever he's outclassed or is getting beat, he kind of throws in the towel. Isn't a warrior, essentially. I would argue to Paulie, it's only happened twice, man, that he's lost. And what about Golovkin, where, they were pretty much neck and neck. We didn't see him give up there. That's what I would say. Duran going up and weight and beating, jumping up those weight classes. I mean, then you would have to say, is Barkley at the level of Canelo? That's the question you have to ask. Yeah, I mean, Paulie makes some interesting takes. I respect him. I think I have seen Canelo when he does lose. His spirit does go out, but who doesn't when you're losing? I don't know. But I understand what he's saying. It makes sense. But again, Paulie, he is kind of a hater, but also, let's be real, man. I'm gonna keep it real. All the Canelo fans, there is one man he needs to fight and that's what we really want to see. I disagree with Paulie says like, oh, Canelo and Terence Crawford's a fight we want to see. No, we don't. At least not people who enjoy boxing. We wanted to see who? David Benavidez. That's what we really wanted to see. Are we going to see it? Probably not.
And being allowed to do that because the politics of the sport allowed to do that. So I feel like for the good of boxing, and this isn't Mexican hate because I know the way the betas today are. As soon as you touch somebody of a different race, automatically you hate those people of that race. You know, if it was a black guy, I get it from black people, I get it from Asians, from Pacquiao, I get it from the Mexicans, from Canelo. It's a lot of betas today. But so it's not about that. But I feel like it's for the better of boxing if Crawford wins because Crawford went about his career the right way. Crawford went about his career trying to chase the best all the time. You know what I mean?
You know, if he wanted to chase the best, he should have stayed at 154, in my opinion. There was Virgil Ortiz. He's a champion. What's up with that fight, Paulie? If he wanted to chase the best, you know, what happened? What about Boots Ennis? That could be interesting. Yeah, I mean, I love the fact that Crawford's daring to be great. But I'm wondering, you know, is that really the best fight for boxing? And I don't think it is. I think it's the best fight for I don't know, the bags, as Paulie Malignaggi says. But I don't know, man. What do you think? You think Terence Crawford and Canelo Alvarez is the fight everybody wants to see, or is there another fight that you think they should be taking? I know I have my pick. I want to hear yours. Leave me a comment. Let me know.
I'm trying to fight the best fighters all the time. And I feel like, you know, maybe he wasn't always able to acquire them because of promotional boundaries. But, you know, I feel like he's constantly testing himself. That Madrimov fight to me was really, really impressive. Madrimov is a very good fighter, man. You know, I think it was such a high-level chess match that it goes over people's heads a lot of ways. When he fought against Madrimov, which was neck and neck right there, that fight could have even been a draw. It was close. But what he showed in the Madrimov fight to me is more impressive than any of his dominant wins because that was a very difficult fight, high-level chess. And to be able to hold that concentration in your mid-30s against this young, high IQ fighter with explosive and naturally bigger fighter, that was impressive to me. That was really, really impressive. I don't know if he's too small for Canelo. He may be, but Canelo's definitely nothing near the ability Crawford has. Crawford may be better than Canelo out of the right-handed stance, and that's not even his main stance, right? Crawford mainly is a southpaw, right? I think Crawford is more versatile even in one stance than Canelo is. But is he too small? One thing I noticed in the Madrimov fight, Crawford had to give a lot more ground than he usually does. And Canelo, I'm not saying he maybe is hungry, but in the Golovkin rematch, held his ground a lot and pressed. And one thing Canelo does do well, he cuts off the ring well. So can you take away the spacing of the smaller guy who may need to use the spacing because he's so much smaller? I don't know.
Here's where I don't understand Paulie Malignaggi. You know, we're talking about he's a Madrimov, whatever. He said it could have been a draw and that he was most impressed with that. I think that's counterintuitive. How could you be impressed with a fighter and how he performed? Then does that say a lot about Madrimov? And you know, the fight, I think when this interview came out, I think Virgil Ortiz and Madrimov hadn't fought yet, but I mean, we know that Virgil handled Madrimov probably better than Crawford, in my opinion. But you know, who knows? Maybe Crawford softened him up. You know, maybe he softened him up. But this is where I don't agree with Paulie. I mean, how can you be impressed with the fight could have been a draw? I mean, that's just me. I know where he's coming from. I don't get it. But let's continue on what Paulie Malignaggi continued to say about this fight.
We'll see. It's an interesting fight. I just feel like if the right thing is supposed to happen every once in a while in this freaking world, which it never does, I feel like Crawford is supposed to win this fight. It's just a favorite of boxing for the way he went about his career and the way Canelo went about his career.
Do you think Canelo is, and I'm only bringing this up because you talked about Crawford's skills, right? Do you think Canelo is that much different than he was when he lost to Floyd?
No. I don't think there's I don't think he's got any other wrinkles that I've seen. You know what I mean? He goes to the body well. He was known as a body puncher back then. Never had much of a jab back then. Still never developed much of a jab. A jab bothers him then. A jab bothers him now. He went up in weight, failed some PED tests. That may be some of the reason why he went up in weight and held his power. Who knows? I don't see a lot of versatility. You know, I always thought Canelo was a pretty good fighter, even a world-class fighter. Obviously, I'm not doubting that. But
kind of sounds like it, Paulie.
If you take away the wins that he probably robbed, maybe 3-4 fights,
Mara.
He's not on the pound-for-pound list. He's not the star he is today, and he's probably gone to retire because nobody would care at this point. But because he was able to be given wins in key moments to keep this thing going, this manufactured thing going, now we find ourselves here in a situation where he's holding the undisputed title hostage, and he's able to make this super fight with Crawford.
You know, he said a lot there, and Paulie. You know, to say that Canelo is not that much different when he fought Floyd, that's really dishonest, especially coming from a boxing analyst genius. I think he's a great analyst. It's disingenuous, bro. Come on, how is he the same fighter? Everybody knows he got better defensively. Everybody knows he got better ring IQ because of Floyd Mayweather. He schooled him and he taught him, like, hey, you got to get better. Everybody knows that he picks his shots more. You know, everybody knows that he's not much of a combination puncher as he was back then. And he just didn't. I think he relied more on his brute force back then as a fighter. So for Paulie to say that, I think that's BS. I think that's nonsense. And that's why you always got to get different takes to get like the big picture. Because Paulie has some awesome takes. For example, at that last part when holding all the belts. You know, how come Canelo didn't fight David Benavidez? Because the bag wasn't big enough? You know, I don't know. I get the boxing business, but that is that fight that we needed to see. And who knows if we will. Let's continue hearing on what Mr. Paulie, the Magic Man, has to say.
He doesn't get those wins. He's probably gone by now. You know what I mean? Like, he's hanging around. He wins. He'll win. He'll lose. You know, but he's probably gone by now. And Canelo probably had a pretty good career. I think Canelo would have been a world champion regardless. I just don't think he would have been the star unless you manufactured it in the way that it was. But that's what boxing is becoming. Something where they keep manufacturing stars more so than they should, you know? Yeah. And I think it's a beautiful sport with a lot of talented fighters in every generation. And if they would just let it play out, I think it could become the most popular sport ever, man. I mean, the most popular sport in the world, and that's saying a lot. But I watch these fights, bro. I'm here in my little world at Pro Box. I watch these fights. There are constantly so many good fights we have, and I'm like, man, if only the regular world would just see these kind of fights consistently from boxing. Even at world-class level, you can make them. You just got to make the matches. Everybody would watch boxing, dude. Everybody would do it, you know? Because you can't take your eyes off it when it's at its best. You can't. But it's just like it's just not at its best on enough time, you know.
Yeah.
This is why I like Paulie, man, because he's an ambassador for boxing and he makes really good points. If you haven't checked out Pro Box TV, I think they have fights every Wednesday, every other Wednesday. Go check it out and subscribe to the channel, man. They give free fights, and the guys that are coming up, they're 10-0, 8-0, and they're fighting 6 rounds, 8 rounds. Some of them are championship rounds, 12. It's really exciting. I think you ought to go check it out. And I agree with Paulie here, is that if sometimes we need to just let the boxers play it out. Enough with the politics. But hey, look, everybody has a few fights that, man, it should have gone the other way. That should have been a draw. Even Mayweather with the first Castillo versus Mayweather fight, I felt like Castillo won. So to say that, if Canelo had a few fights that got him the other way, he would have been championship, but not as much of a star. I don't think that's true, man. And I think for the most part, you need to have a star to attract, the sport and make some buzz, make the sport loud. We always need that star. Everybody needs that star. So I think Paulie, I understand his point, but I think he's just kind of a little bit of a hater. But he also makes some good points about Canelo not fighting, the holding up the belts and but that's his prerogative. He's number one. Mayweather did it. I think this whole thing with people not fighting who they need to fight started with Mayweather. But let's hope that boxing gets back where it needs to be. Again, if you enjoy boxing, you're a purist, go check Pro Boxing TV and look it up on YouTube. You'll find it. They have always fights on Wednesdays, and they're pretty exciting, man. Hungry guys trying to get at it. It's good. It's like a pure match. It's like people trying to make a name for themselves, and then you got Paulie commentating there. It's really good stuff. Anyway, if you enjoyed the comment, click like and subscribe to the channel. A human being, I'm not AI. Let's support human being channels. And remember, ego isn't your amigo.